Since then, the Asura have renewed their war against the Skrit, entreating other races to eradicate their third enemy as well. Some races, such as the Char, are more than happy to do so. Well, they are cats, seeing as the Skrit as a pest to eradicate. Others, such as the humans and Silvari, are more willing to talk to the Skrit and make alliances. The Skrit are often eager to do so, and more or less trustworthy, as long as they stay in a group large enough to provide sufficient brain power to remember the conditions they agreed to respect. That's so cool. Like, you just... How can you have an alliance with the Skrit where just they are completely different things as individuals than they are in groups? It's a really, really cool idea. Skrit Society. Warriors among the Skrit are called Skeen Du. An apt student will note that the words literally translate to any Skrit holding a weapon. Okay, so that's a warrior for the Skrit. That was a quote from Rava Skritcoat, lecturer at the College of Dynamics. One of the Asuran colleges. I haven't really talked about those much, but that's more something for Asura Week, I guess. The Skrit naturally evolve a leader as they begin to gather permanently in one place. That leader is usually chosen for his or her ability to most rapidly pass the information brought by other Skrit. The rest of their race at that location respect the leader as something of a first among equals, allowing the individual to choose future strategies and plans for the entire colony. See, this is weird how they kind of designate a leader to the Skrit despite the way they've just established how the race works. I wonder if that's just so that they can sort of have priority targets for players to fight in like content, maybe. I don't know, it seems a bit weird. It's a bit contradictory, but they make it work, I suppose. The entire group gathers en masse at least once every moon, usually on the full or new moon, as it is easiest to note, in order to share large-scale information. They commune, discuss the events of the past month, and prepare for any difficulties they know to be approaching during the next moon. See, this is ridiculous. Yeah, they learn this stuff, but if one of them wanders off, then he forgets everything. Do they forget their own identity? See, this is really kind of weird, isn't it? Although the Skrit do love to take objects for their own, they do not prize jewellery or useless items, nor do they decorate themselves with shining objects. Such things can only bring harm to a Skrit who is trying to be sneaky. Instead, they prefer useful objects, items that give them an advantage in hunting or other work, or things that they are incapable of making for themselves. We get a cool little image here of just some of the Skrit architecture and their huts and stuff. It's not anything that really I could point to in Guild Wars 1 and say, aha, look, this is early Skrit stuff. It's a completely different concept. I'm sure that when ArenaNet made Eye of the North, they hadn't thought of the Skrit yet, so, we can't make comparisons like that, but it looks pretty cool anyway. Skrit religion, such as it is the next session, and it says, and it starts with a quote from someone called Old Adhorak of the Ratasok colony. See, I'm going to have the same problem Let's Play in Guild Wars 2 as soon as I'm around the Skrit as I had when I was in Factions and Nightfall, I could just tell it. Seek it and find. Do not look. It is not. Therefore, you should not look with care, yes? Okay, that doesn't make much sense, but this is what we're going to learn. I think it must be in this blog post. We'll learn how they talk, and they talk very fast, so it changes sort of their language. The Skrit have only a faint sense of faith, more a sense of empathy for the world than a belief in a divine source or power. Skrit feel that life simply exists so that one can have pleasant times and good memory. That's a nice philosophy as well, isn't it? Life simply exists so that you may have pleasant times and good memories. That's a very nice way of living. They are hedonists and are willing to gain their comforts from someone else's labour. They are scavengers, but picky ones. They're not the sort to dig through your trash, but rather the kind of mooch who convinces you that your extra sword is too much trouble to carry and you should give it to them. They do have a sense of material value and prefer shinier, more advanced items. In time, Skrit will likely break anything they've been given and come sniffing around for newer and better items to acquire. ArenaNet have never talked about this. I don't know whether it's a system still in the game. It must be in some way. But collectors, there were big things in Guild Wars 1, the collectors, they were pretty cool. I can imagine Skrit being collectors. So easily, Skrit can be collectors. And maybe even collectors that tend to fuck you over quite a lot. That'd be quite cool, because obviously they wouldn't want to give up their own shiny stuff. Or maybe it's revealed that they are particularly good at creating a certain type of consumable or something. They want all your shiny items and stuff. The next section is the ecology of the Skrit. The Skrit are sneaky, intelligent scavengers who resemble a humanoid cross between rats and bats. Okay, so they're human rat bats. They are omnivorous, preferring cooked meat and harvesting fungi from the underground. For a moment there, I thought it was going to make it sound like they have exactly the same diet as humans, but fungi from the underground. I guess that makes sense, since that's where they developed. See, there's no real problems with a lot of these races. We saw that one race that were in the depths that look albino when they're in the depths, but when they're on the surface, they don't. I wonder how much will have changed with the Skrit in that regard, because that's another thing. Like the Asura, you all know that I have problems with their new design, particularly their eyes and stuff. But, you know, people always talk about how that's changed because over 250 years, Asura, their bodies have kind of, and this would be very fast, but their bodies have supposedly adapted to sort of the outside conditions. I wonder if there's something similar to the script. There's, in fact, just I'm looking right now at a really cool picture of a script. It's actually some pretty awesome concept art of just a script there with another script in the background in the underground, which is pretty cool. It looks like they're just kind of climbing out and seeing the light for the first time. It's really cool. Skrit are far too lazy and self-absorbed to run sufficient farms, except for those that require next to no work on their part. I wonder what kind of farms those are. They prefer to live in large hollows or caverns, known as scratches. I like that name for their little homes as well. They use rocks and underground passageways to build a safe environment. They do have architecture and build huts or structures within the main area of their hollow, out of the items they can scavenge. There's no societal distinction between male and female Skrit. Only the Asura, who have generations of interactions with this race, can easily tell the difference between the two genders. To other races, all Skrit look very much the same. I'm gonna come back to this point again, right? This is a typical example, okay? There's no distinction between male and female Skrit. Okay, that's cool. And only the Asura can tell the difference between the two genders, right? That's a pretty cool lore. They've obviously thought quite hard about different stuff, and these little details are what make the world feel alive and fleshed out, right? But how is that going to translate in-game? I mean, I can't imagine anything in-game that's going to have that come up in any way, unless there was like a single event where if you're playing as an Asuran character, there's a Skrit that's like, what? Is a Skrit going to ask you, oh, am I a boy or a girl? You know, it just seems contrived. And it's going to be such a small thing that it's not going to be something that the majority of players are going to get. You know, it's these little details that are so important to get people really into the story for the second game, which is obviously something I would love to happen, right? But how are these little things going to come in? I wonder. If you guys, you know, do you guys have the same worry as me? I've mentioned this a few times, but I've never had any comments on it. Do you think that's going to be a problem here? I mean, all these little things, they're so cool, but I just don't see how they're going to come into their own when we're actually in game. No one really knows how the Skrit hive-like intelligence works. The most likely theory is that the Skrit simply communicate so rapidly that when together they can vet their ideas and choose the best one within seconds, rather than going with whatever plan each individual first conceived. So these guys, they're your hive mind race, right? They'll talk about this in the behind the scenes. They're basically the hive mind race, but ArenaNet have put a nice spin on it, essentially, where they've basically said, oh hey, yeah, they're the hive mind race, but it's far more insect-like, and they've sort of put their own twist on it, which I think is pretty cool. Certainly the Skrit have exceptionally sharp auditory skills. They can communicate with one another almost instantly if they are within earshot. If you meet one Skrit alone, he might not appear particularly intelligent, but if you meet several, they can discuss their surroundings in amazingly swift, almost ultrasonic chirrups and chitters, and are able to process information and make more intelligent decisions. Therefore, the Skrit seem less intelligent in small groups and more intelligent when they gather in large ones. Because of this, the Skrit in their scratches are the most intelligent and possibly the most dangerous. Even the bravest Asura hesitate to attack a hollow when it is filled with Skrit, and in fact that's what that story is about that I told you, that I keep talking about. That's what that story is about. It's some Asura trying to take out a scratch. It's really quite cool. A female Skrit may give birth to litters approximately 3 to 5 times in their lives. So I don't think they live very long, really. These litters rapidly become self-sufficient and move out to live on their own. However, due to the nature of Skrit intelligence, young Skrit occasionally wander off alone and find themselves without the chittering of others to help them in dangerous situations. Thus, the overall population remains relatively small. See, that's so... I just love the idea of it. Like, as a Skrit, you would just find comfort in like a million voices going on in your head all the time. That's really cool. Skrit mothers and fathers care, because that's quite an alien concept to us as humans, I guess, right? Skrit mothers and fathers care a great deal for their children and pamper them with finest objects that can be bought, bartered for, or stolen. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Skrit have some difficulty communicating with other species. Due to the unique method of their race's interpersonal communication, Skrit often simply assume you know what they're talking about. They also assume that you have the ability to keep up with their fast-paced idea transfer, and will speak rapidly and without specifics, because another Skrit would simply understand without the needing of those details. Skrit also occasionally get overexcited and repeat themselves to make sure that the slow-witted not Skrit actually understand them. So yeah, the language, they skip out a lot of things. Let me go back up to a quote here. So this is a quote from the guy at Colony, and he says, "Seek it and find. Do not look. It is not, therefore you should not look with care." Yes? See, do you see how they speak? It's like they just miss loads of stuff out. I think that's so cool. Can you just imagine how dangerous the Skrit would be if they could actually remember this stuff if they were sort of split off from their colony? It would just be amazing. They would surpass the Asura so fast. I also like how they established that 2 of the underground races are also, in their own regards, quite intelligent, and I wonder if that was on purpose, or whether they'd considered that they were the 2 underground races, or it just came about by the fact that ArenaNet wanted the Asura to have a sort of enemy race, I suppose, that were quite similar to them, and that just so happened that they both were from underground. Behind the scenes, okay, so here we go. The Skrit are a new species in Guild Wars 2, and their creation came from brainstorms about the effects of Primordus' awakening. Yeah, because they don't really, Primordus' awakening, it's this huge thing in Either North, but I don't really think that they mention too much about the consequence of it. The consequence is just established, oh hey, that's why the Asura exist now. Happy times. And we haven't heard anything about Primordus after that event. Like, we just know he's sort of buttering around in the depths and still creating destroyers, which the remaining dwarves are fighting, and that's about all we know about Primordus at this point. Granted, he's not the dragon with the most mystery about him. That would be the deep sea dragon, which I very rarely talk about on this channel, but is one of the most intriguing things. But anyway, we'd already talked about the Asura coming to the surface, but when we started to think about what underground world must have been like for the Asura, we concluded that the Asura could not have been alone down there. Other creatures, like the Dredge, must also have been affected by the Elder Dragon's aggression, as we're seeing right now, actually, in the dungeon going on in the background, which is pretty cool. There's no blog post for the Dredge yet, as far as I remember, which is a bit of a shame. I'm looking forward to that if it ever comes. They've slowed down with the lore blog post recently. I'm not sure why, but they certainly have. We hadn't explored the idea of a hive mind in our world before, but we didn't just want to repeat the old standard, an insectoid race. We went through many ideas and eventually settled on the concept of a Rattus-based horde. A major consideration in their creation was that the race had to challenge the Asura on their own terms, but not just as another super intelligent species, which is really cool. I really like that, because they could have just been lazy, right? They could have been lazy and just said, oh, these guys are super intelligent as well, there you go. We wanted them to have weaknesses, flaws, and differences, as well as their own strengths. We had a quest chain that involved Skrit at one point, although it didn't make it into the game. It was a fascinating story. See, why this upsets me when they tell us stuff like this. Why isn't it in the game? Okay, a small colony of Skrit came upon a tribe of Kodan and listened to the Kodan philosophy. As a group, they were able to understand it very well, and one of them was impressed and wanted to learn more. The other Skrit left the area, but that one stayed behind to study with the Kodan. Unfortunately, once the other Skrit left, he found himself in a terrible position. He was no longer intelligent enough to understand the Kodan philosophy, or remember why he idolised them so much. The feelings remained, and he stayed with the Kodan, but, tragically, he would never be able to truly understand them. It was Guild Wars 2's version of Flowers for Algernon. I've never read that. I hope that one day we'll be able to put that tale in the game. Why was it cut? See, I wonder. That's so cool. This is something else that really, I love the idea of. These minor races, which they're starting to establish, right? Lots of different minor races. They've all got their own distinct cultures and religions and ways they move and stuff. We've heard about 3 of them now. Really, really, really interesting. And then there's obviously ones from Guild Wars 1 that we already know quite a lot about, like the Tengu, for instance. Really cool. And I love it when they just kind of throw all the big pieces in the game out of the window, like the main 5 races and all that stuff. They just kind of throw that all out the window and say, okay, how do these seemingly minor characters that we've set up in the world interact with the other minor ones? And that just brings it all to life. It's so good. I love hearing about all these little interactions that could be going on between all the different races. It's just like, I would love. They said that if the first Guild Wars book trilogy does well, which I think for the most part it has done well so far, they would consider doing more. And I would love them to do like a book on or a series of books on some of the minor races sort of interacting with each other. You know, some of these races we've just talked about actually sort of banding up for whatever reason and going off to complete some quest or something. That'd be so cool. I love it when they do stuff like this, because it just you get all these big things set up in your mind, and then they just say, all right, now consider how they work together. It's very, very cool. So yeah, there you go. That's the end of the blog post, guys. That is the script. Where are we on the dungeon right now? Well, for me, oh my god, we're quite far. I won't have to speed this dungeon up very much then. It'll probably only still be in 2 parts though, which means these will probably be 2 quite long parts. But I'll pass you back over to myself for the boss at the end. And don't forget that you can read the description for more information about what we've been hearing as we go through. And also, don't forget, if you want to play, please just come play. I really don't mind. If you've never been before, you'll get precedence over the other people. It should be very, very, very fun. I mean, this went really well. So thanks again, guys. What is it about my voice today? I don't know. I've just edited through everything I just talked about. Why does it sound like there's something in my mouth, or that I'm finding it hard to speak? I don't know. Are you guys picking up on that? Anyway, this is the boss from his Zoldark the Unholy. He says, excellent, you're just in time to feed my children, okay? There's a lot that I can talk about in this boss, basically, because this guy's a lich, okay? Zoldark the Unholy is a lich. This was a speech, really, I want to save for the Shards of Ore, mostly, though. But you'll actually, well, you probably won't recognise it. It would take quite a keen person to notice this. His skills, he's using very similar, they're named exactly the same, and they have very similar effects to the skills that Palawa Joko uses in the Norn tournament, basically, and there's another boss in the Shards of Ore, as far as I remember, who also uses similar skills, okay? So basically it sets these guys up, Zoldark the Unholy and Palawa, as liches, just like Vizier Kilbron was, okay? And I've kind of got a theory that maybe they're all linked to Zaitan in some way. That would be kind of what makes sense there, or at least they're all minions of Zaitan. And what would be even more interesting there is we know about Kraukatoric and how Glint sort of defected from Kraukatoric. Well, what if Palawa Joko, who seems to be a lich, has some relevance to Zaitan? What if that means that essentially Palawa is the same as Glint, and that he's sort of rebelled against Zaitan, if you will, and now maybe that's what's going on there, and that's why they're at war in Guild Wars 2. Quite an interesting idea there. I'm quite interested in the idea anyway. But basically, this guy's a lich. He uses very similar skills to Palawa. If you want tips on fighting him, basically, the way ArenaNet seem to have set it up is basically they want you to kill the minions that he summons. He constantly summons minions. As you can see here, we've given up with that because we've realised we're doing so much damage, we can just hammer into him. But while his minions are up, he gets extra maximum health, crap loads more armor, and just generally has a lot of health. He takes a real beating. But when his minions are down, he loses all of that, and when you kill his minions, he sacrifices his own health to bring them back to life. So it's really the fight. I think they do just intend you to keep fighting his minions, and basically Zoldark will take himself down to super low health, stop summoning them, and then you can finish him off at the end there. So yeah, there you go, down he goes, as you can see, but we just generally did so much damage we could take him out. He has no health regeneration, basically, so you can damage him, and even if he causes you to wipe somehow, I'm not sure how he could cause you to wipe, but you know, it might happen because you could have super high death penalty at this point. Don't worry about it, you can always just go back, chip a tiny little bit more health off of him, die, keep going back, keep going back, keep going back, and as long as you're in normal mode, that'll work. Obviously, hard mode, you'll get kicked out when everyone's at 60% death penalty, but that is a viable way of taking him out. So it's an interesting fight, I like it. I mean, we did so much damage, we didn't really conform to how ArenaNet seemed to set it up and want us to play, but there you go, that's just the way we did it, I guess. He's a cool fight. I'm going to cut it now, actually, until we get to the end as we time out. You don't actually have to time out, you can resign here. We're waiting for the countdown, I'm talking to everyone, but you can just resign out of the mission and you'll be taken straight back to the Umbral Grotto, where you can get the reward. There we go. Okay, so yeah, and you'll load back into the Umbral Grotto, and you can talk to Molnin again, of the Maltiriot. I think that's how you say it anyway. And he says, "Thank you. You have struck a great blow to the Maltiriot hero. Perhaps I'll include you in my next manifesto." So there you go. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Dredge manifestos. That's pretty cool as well. So yeah, there you go. That's the dungeon. I think it's a pretty cool dungeon. I like it. You know, definitely check out the description for all the stuff you see of the Stone Summit who dug too deep. I also like how it has us actually blow through that wall before we get to like the underground city. If you've been reading what I was saying in the chat box, I love the way that place down there looks. It's so amazing. I love the idea of sort of deep underground cities. Who built it? Who knows? But there's ancient evils down there, and we go down and sort of explore it. Very, very cool. Like I said, I'm going to have to remind you guys, no dungeons this weekend. It's Christmas. Enjoy Christmas with your family. The weekend after that, it's probably New Year, isn't it? But I'm still going to do some dungeons then if you guys want to see on that. And if I'm in, actually, I don't know. I might not be in. I might be out. I'm not sure. I'll definitely be leaving bulletins and stuff around though. But yeah, definitely no dungeons this coming weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.